Good evening, good evening, good evening. I am Taylor Andre. You are tuned in to Tailor Made Real Estate Easy. I'm excited to be here with you this evening. We're going to give people a couple minutes to get in here. Folks be showing up late every once in a while. So let's give people a couple minutes to get in before we start answering the questions. And so, just a really quick intro. My name is Taylor Andre. I've been a real estate agent for over 8 years. I absolutely love what I do. And as long as I have been doing it, um, one of the things that I would say is um, I used to be a radio personality. And being a radio personality, I found myself having a million and one questions about real estate. So many questions about, like, what exactly is real estate, and what is gentrification, and why does it exist? Why is it happening in my community? You know, why is it harming so many people? And this was 10 years ago, right? And so nobody really knew what gentrification was. We were seeing people starting to um, leave out of the city, not as bad as we currently see it, but it was bad enough, where you could see the changes that were taking place. People that were always in our communities were kind of thinning out, and there wasn't quite an at that time, I had no understanding at all of what a gentrification was, or the cycles of real estate. And so I began asking questions, and it started with the mayor of Boston at that time. And so, Mayor Marty Walsh was the mayor, and I was bringing in him and everyone from his cabinet to ask the questions about real estate. What is it? Why is gentrification happening? Why is it happening in my community? In Dorchester, Roxbury, where I was a weekend kid, right? I was here on the weekends. I was here during holidays. I was here for the entire summer. And there were times that I could not get off the porch. And, I could not leave the basketball court, which was directly next to my family home. And now all of a sudden there's people walking poodles and jogging. And I just could not comprehend what was going on. And it was like, don't worry, it's nothing. This is just a real estate cycle. There's nothing to concern yourself with. But I was overly concerned because there were changes that were happening that I didn't understand, and I saw how it was affecting not only those that were having to leave and having to move, but how it was affecting the neighbors in the neighborhood, and the cost of properties and people being able to purchase in the city. And so I say all that to say my real estate journey began when the questions I had were not being answered by those that I felt were supposed to answer my questions. And so I went and sought those answers out for myself. And then it didn't dawn on me until later in life that I went for my real estate license when I turned 18, and I failed. But then I did not have a mentor in my life to say, listen, just because you failed the test doesn't mean you failed at life. Go take it again. And had I took it again when I was 18 years old, I would have experienced 2008. I would have experienced the crash, the housing bubble that everyone else experienced, that have been in the business for 20 years. But I also probably would not have been the radio personality that I was. I probably wouldn't have seen a lot of the things. So God has us on a path for whatever reason that we are. At 18 years old, I was not on the real estate path, but almost 10 years ago, I have been in this game, have loved every moment of it, and have learned so much that I felt it necessary for me to give back. And so, at any point in time, if you have any questions, drop them in the chat, drop them in the comment section. We're currently streaming live on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. And if there's anything that you have questions with, anything that I can assist with, I definitely am going to go down that rabbit hole on your behalf to do your due diligence. And so due diligence is basically like research. What is the research say? What are you supposed to do? And so some of the questions that have come in already are some of the questions that I'm going to address until you all drop your questions in the comment. And so the first question at 6:06, I hope everybody's here. I'm not going to take up a lot of your time. I want to get right down to the nitty gritty, get your questions answered. How can I determine if I can afford a home, including all of the costs involved, such as down payment or closing costs or property tax? And so one of the things that's really important for me is informed decisions. For you to have every single question answered so you can make a decision based on what is best for your family, not just for today, but for tomorrow and the next day. And so, what does it look like to afford a house? Many of you, if you have a 3-bedroom apartment, a 4-bedroom apartment, a 5-bedroom apartment, you're already paying what many people are paying for a mortgage. And so, determining what you are approved for, there are certain things that you have to be mindful of. First and foremost, if you go online and you put in your annual income, and aside from your annual income, you add how much debt you have and how much credit card bills you have. At any point in time, you can do that, and it'll tell you you're pre-approved for $800,000. But realistically, if you make $100,000 a year, you're potentially looking at 100,000 times 4 as your baseline pre-approval amount. Now, that baseline is baseline. We're still taking into account your student loans, your credit card debt, your child support payments, the car loan that you have, your personal loan that you have, the loan that you took out for your children to be able to go to college. So all of those factor in. How much savings do you have? Are you qualified for a certain program that may or may not increase your pre-approval amount by 25%? Do you qualify for a program that could boost what you're able to be approved for by way of helping you out with a grant for down payment, helping you with a grant for down payment for closing cost assistance? All of that factors in. So when you ask, what can I get pre-approved for? There's so many variables that if someone tells you automatically, like, oh, you can be pre-approved for XYZ, they're blowing smoke up your chimney, because it takes so much for the actual number to be determined. You need to have your 2 years worth of your tax returns, and not just the tax returns, but the W-2s that come with it for the end of the year, or your 1099s that come with it for the end of the year. You also need 3 months worth of bank statements. And it's not just your bank statements, it's your credit card statements. We want to see, how have you been spending your money? What does this spending look like? If you have $100,000 in the bank, but you just put $50,000 in yesterday, you might want to wait a couple months. Just so we can see the consistency of what you have. And when I say we, I see the loan officer, because I am only a real estate agent. I'm not a loan officer. I am not an attorney. I am not an inspector. I can only help you with the things that I am licensed with in the state of Massachusetts, Rhode Island, and Georgia, and that's being a real estate agent. In addition to your W-2s, your 1099s, and if you are an entrepreneur, you can purchase a house. Is it going to be a little bit more of a rigorous process? Absolutely. But it's not impossible for you to be a solopreneur, entrepreneur with no real job except for your business and still buy a house. So if someone told you because you don't have a real job, you can't buy a house, that is false. If you have been filing your tax returns on behalf of your business for the last 2 years, you absolutely can purchase a home. And there's other ways that you can purchase a home too if you're an entrepreneur and you just want to use your bank statements. There's so many options out here. And so that's why it's so important to have a real conversation, be honest, put everything on the table so we can help you make the best decision for you and your family. In addition to the documents that you need, you absolutely need to have some savings. And so I understand there's down payment assistance, there's closing cost assistance, there's NACA, no down payment, no closing costs, no PMI. You still have to come to the table with something. And it is naive of anyone to believe that just because these programs with assistance exist, that you don't have to come to the table with nada. Now, have there been circumstances where people use like Section 8 to home ownership, NACA, or the One Plus Boston, and they had grants that acted on their behalf and brought money to the table so they did not have to close with anything coming from themselves? Absolutely. But I guarantee you they had at least 1.5% of that purchase price in the bank. Why? Because it's mandatory for you to have that in order for you to even qualify to move forward with these products. Even with NACA, you still have to come to the table with $3,500, and that's just to cover all of the things that you have to cover, and you will get it itemized. It's like a receipt, but it's not really. It's called your CD, or your closing disclosure form, or it's also known as an ALTA, ALTA. Additionally, you do not want a pre-qualification. A pre-qualification goes back to what I was saying, going to the online and just typing in, I make $150,000 a year. That's not including the taxes that were taken out. I have zero credit card debt. You're not taking into account the credit card debt that you closed out and currently on your credit report as negatives. And I have $100,000 in savings, but it's not actually in your account. It's in your 401k, which you can use, but there's a whole nother process, a whole nother conversation that we should discuss one-on-one in order for you to make the best decision based on all the information at hand. What should I consider about the current real estate market to ensure I'm making a wise investment? One of the things that any real estate agent will tell you on September 10th, 2024 is it is weird outside right now. If an agent tells you anything else other than it's weird outside right now, they are trying to comfort you and they may be gaslighting you. It's even for an agent that's been in the business for 10 years. I've been in conversations with agents that have been in the business for the last 30 years, and they're like, it is literally the wild, wild west. I have never seen anything like this before. I've lived through the 2008 housing bubble. This is just, I could not imagine. I can't. And so there's a lot, like the market is so different. And as we know, politics plays a huge role in everything, in every aspect of our life. And so politically, we're seeing a lot of influence on the housing market. We've seen the housing market bubble up to where a single family home was going for $850,000, where 5 years ago it would have been a $400,000 piece of property. And we're now seeing in September the market auto correcting itself. But in this auto correct, we have such limited inventory and so many buyers that these buyers are putting their offer, and kind of trying to fight each other for this house and going above and beyond in order to make this this property theirs that they are offering over asking, which is then inflating prices. And so a property that was $500,000, you now have 70 different people who want this house. You end up getting 13 different offers, and these offers are 10,000 over asking, 15,000 over asking, 25, 35, $50,000 over asking. At the heat of the bubble, we were seeing offers $150,000 over asking, not knowing whether or not it's going to appraise. So I want to pause here. Appraise. What does it mean for a property to appraise? It means, I'm trying to put this in the simplest terms for you. So what have other houses sold for? You have a one family, 4 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, 2,000 square feet. How many of these properties that have a yard, have off-street parking, have 4 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, and 2,000 square feet? In the last 3 months, how many of these properties have sold? Great, 8 of them. Out of these 8, how many are in a 1-mile radius? Great, 3 of them. Out of those 3, how much did they sell for? Let's just throw out random numbers. One sold for $480,000. One sold for $500,000, and one sold for $575,000. Interesting. Now, looking at all 3 of these properties that sold within a 1-mile radius that meet exactly what our house looks like is what these houses look like on paper. Let's take a look at these photos of these properties that have already sold. Does your house have a leaky roof? Does your house have green carpet? Is the bathroom pink tile? Is the kitchen wood paneled? All of those things matter because the home that sold for $575,000, yes, it's a 4-bedroom. Yes, it's a 2-bathroom. Yes, it's 2,000 square feet, but it was also renovated a year ago and has all new fixtures, brand new appliances with a brand new fence around the home. That plays a role into the property value, whereas the $475,000 or $485,000 home is wood paneled. The bathroom is pink. The tub is pink. Mind you, that tub will never deteriorate. That bathroom will never be destroyed. The way homes were built back in the day, those are some good solid bones. They may be unattractive, but that's a solid one right there. The one that sold for $525,000 was updated 20 years ago. So it doesn't have the pink tiling in the bathroom. It doesn't have the pink tub. It doesn't have the wood paneling in the kitchen. But 20 years ago, it had the double vanity sink with the round tubes, and all of this plays a role. What does your house look like, and which category would you put it in? The 475, the 525, or the 575? So when Zillow says your house is worth 700,000, that's cool. What they're telling you is properties that are similar in size, similar in bedrooms, similar in square footage have sold for this amount, and possibly your house could sell for the same. But what Zillow's not taking into account is either A, your family has deferred maintenance for years. The roof is leaking. The kitchen is a little older. The wood panel across the living room is still there. You have green carpet in all of the bedrooms, and there's a lot of work to be had. So that $500,000 that Zillow told you that you could get for your house is not taking into account the deferred maintenance. On the other hand, that $500,000 house, that $500,000 that Zillow's telling you could sell your house for, doesn't take into account that you updated the bathroom, you've updated the kitchen, you've taken out the carpet, and you laid flooring. Flooring can run you $3,000, $10,000. That's an investment into your home. The return on investment is going to be determined by how much you put into it. And if your home mirrors this 575, then yes, let's go ahead and put the house on the market closer to the 575, because that reflects how much work you've put into the home, rather than the 475 where there's some work to be had. And if you put in $100,000, you may be able to list it at the 575. I hope that answers any question regarding that. If it doesn't, you can inbox me and we can go through it a little bit more. How can I protect myself against market fluctuations? One of the things that I have not seen is negative equity. If you purchase a home for $400,000, you are not going to see your house 10 years from now be worth $300,000. You're not going to see your house be worth $400,000. Even if we have the worst markets possible, just like inflation of everything else, you are going to build equity. One of the things that I stand on, and one of the things that's so important to me, I'm 41 years old. As 41 years old, my parents purchased a home back when I was, I believe, 13, maybe 14. And while they purchased a home while I was 13, 14, their interest rate was 16%. So we're here and itching and complaining like, oh, it's 8%, it's 7%. Our parents purchased homes when interest rates were 16%, when interest rates were 12%. Do you want to know what my parents did when the interest rates dropped? They refinanced. They refinanced. It truly is. Do not wait to buy real estate. You buy real estate and wait. Don't think you're going to get $100,000 in equity in 6 months. Did it happen? Oh, absolutely. It did. It happened. I have clients that purchased 5 years ago in Brockton when nobody even wanted to look at Brockton, that now have equity $250,000 plus. Are we going to see that again? I don't foresee that in our future, but nor am I psychic. But right now, it looks like we're seeing a steady incline. We're looking at 5 to 7% equity increases per year. And, you know, that 5% is a lot better than 0.1% in the bank. It looks a lot better to pay off your mortgage than it does to pay off someone else's mortgage. So, you know, what should you consider about the current real estate market, and to ensure you make a wise investment? Make sure that it makes sense for you, period. Regardless of the interest rate, does it make sense for you? Are you paying the same amount on your mortgage that you are on rent? One of the questions that also came up was, I keep seeing people say that my mortgage will never change, but then I see conflicting reports on the Instagram or on, you know, different websites that are like, my mortgage drastically changed. And one of the things I wanted to address regarding this was, one of the reasons why your mortgage may change, especially if you got a new build, is, let's say, for example, you purchased a brand new build, new construction. With this new construction, there were no taxes. This was a vacant piece of land, and the tax on this land was $100 a month. Your taxes are determined by what the property assesses for. What is an assessment? I'm going to take a look at this ring. I'm going to assess it and say, you know what? This is a beautiful ring. It's worth $100. Now, let's say, for instance, this is just, this glass. Okay, it's a square. I'm assessing it at $20. What can you do with this? There's work that needs to be had before you can, let's pretend like it's brass or gold. That's $20 because of what you can use it for. After you build on it, you craft it, you design it. Okay, this now assessed at $100. And so that $100 a month that they were paying because the land assessed at $10,000, the taxes are super low. The taxes are super cheap. Now it's been built upon. Now it's fully developed. Now we sold off the parcel. You're the brand new buyer. And one of the things that is happening is people are not being properly educated. Again, informed decision. Let me tell you, this brand new construction, right now, your taxes are at $100 a month. But once the city, the town reassesses, you have 3,500 square feet. You have 5 bedrooms, 3.5 bathrooms. They are now assessing your property at $700,000. What is the tax on that $700,000 versus that $10,000 that it was previously assessed at when it was just vacant land? That is the reason why people's taxes are increasing drastically, causing their mortgage to increase drastically. It's not necessarily the mortgage that is increasing, it is the taxes, interest, principal, and insurance that go into a mortgage payment. Now, why would your insurance increase? Your insurance could increase if there is, we have seen an increase of vandalism in the city. We've seen an increase of break-ins. Think about your own car insurance. When's the last time your car insurance decreased? Not in the last 5 years. They've been creeping upward and upward and upward. And these insurance companies are telling us, oh, it's because there's an abundance of accidents taking place. There's more break-ins happening. People are, in the city of Boston getting into more accidents. We're paying out more. So in the city of Boston, you have to pay more. Whereas in the suburbs, there's less accidents. And so they get the benefit of having lower insurance. We won't go down the slippery slope of how I feel in regards to if you work in the city, you should be held accountable for driving in the city and having to pay what city dwellers pay. And so I want to take a moment really quickly and pause because it's getting dark. I want to turn on some lights so you can better see me. We have another 30 minutes. We have a few more questions, and I want to make sure that we get through the questions, but I want to do so in a way that is like you guys have the proper lighting as well. So we will be right back, and I'm not quite sure. Do we have a way? Let's do a quick countdown. Okay. Clearly that took longer than 30 seconds, but we're going to bust out another 30 seconds. más. So I am still here, and we are, just want to make sure that you can see me. Hey. All right, just making sure that the lighting is better. You guys can see better. And so we can get these questions answered. So that's better. Hey. And so we have been answering some of these questions in regards to real estate and making sure that you have a better understanding. If there's anything that you would like to ask, please just drop it in the chat and I'll make sure that I get your questions answered. And if you have something personal that you would like to add, we can also get some time on the calendar and to get your questions answered as well. And so a really quick recap, we went over process of what it looks like for you to be able to get your pre-approval, not a pre-qualification. So you can go ahead and begin the search into real estate, finding your home. One of the questions was how to determine if I can afford a home, including all of the costs involved. What should I consider about the current real estate market to ensure that we're making a wise investment? And how do I protect myself against market fluctuations? The third question that we had prior to the show was, what steps can I take to assess the condition of a property and identify potential issues before buying? And how important is a home inspection? And so one of the things I want to clarify is that I am a real estate agent. Yes, I have been on thousands of inspections, but I am a real estate agent. I am not an inspector. As a real estate agent, I will share my expertise and my knowledge through that lens. So as a real estate agent, one of the things that I love to do before we even go through inspection, I'm like, hey, listen, I'm a real estate agent. I'm not an inspector. I've done thousands of these. These are the things that I'm looking for. What's the roof look like? What's the age of the roof? Is it going to fall apart in the next 5 years, or do you have another 15 years of use? Let's take a look at the heating system. The heating system has, one of my favorite things that an inspector will say is like, oh, this is a really good heating system. This is like one of them ones from like 100 years ago. It could break down today, or it could last you another 100 years. And the reason why I love that is because when we're taking a look at the heating system, it's again, informed decisions. For you have all the information. This thing has been running for the last 70 years, and it could run another 70 years. You're taking a look at the ticket on the tag, making sure it's been serviced every year. That's important. If your water heater has been serviced every year, if your furnace has been serviced every year, that's a great indication that this home has been taken care of and that there's little deferred maintenance. Now, if you go into a home and you look at that ticket or that tag that is on the furnace and it's never been serviced, and the house is like 112 years old, that's something to think about. That's something to consider. The water heater, you want to take a look at the electric. Is it knob and tube? Taylor, what is knob and tube? Remember back in the day when you used to have to like crank the light on or press the buttons to turn the light on? That is an indication that the home still has knob and tube, but not the only indication. You will see downstairs in the basement these strings with these roundabouts, like sewing spools. I'm aging myself because half of the millennials don't even know how to sew. But those sewing spools and having the wires wrapped around them is an indication that there's possible knob and tube. And so just because knob and tube is visible in the basement doesn't mean that it's active in the basement. The reason why some of these in water, like a water filtration system, is also important because that is a very costly thing. You're taking a look at these things that are pretty costly and can determine and dictate whether you become a homeowner and then become house broke because you're pouring so much money into this money pit because you weren't mindful of these things. Yes, if a house has deferred maintenance, you want to be mindful. Yes, if there's peeling paint, it's not going to pass the FHA minimal requirements for safety. Yes, if the railing is loose, you're also going to have an additional FHA issue. But one of the things that a lot of agents are not aware of, and which is one of my favorite things on earth, is a 203K loan. So with a 203K loan, let's say for instance, we walk into this house and we're like, we found the house of our dreams. We're pre-approved for 500,000. The house is on the market for 400,000. Let's go. Let's get it. It's ours. And you walk in and you're like, what the now I know why it's worth 400, because there was deferred maintenance. The electric needs to be redone. The roof is falling apart. And even though the house has really good bones, there's just so many problems. I'm ready to walk away, walk out of this. This is not the headache that I'm trying to get into. I would tell you that you may be passing up an opportunity to walk into a home with equity. Just because it's the ugly duckling on the street doesn't mean it's not worth all that it could possibly be worth. And so many of us go into the dating scene looking at someone's potential with the willingness to guide them and help them be the best they possibly can be. But when it comes to housing and purchasing property, we're ready to throw the whole house out. And so with a 203K, let's say for instance, there is knob and tube, but and the house can catch on fire at any time. I don't want this home. I want something that isn't going to cause my house to burn down. Perfectly fine. You still have money in your pot. You're pre-approved for 500,000. The house is on the market for 400,000. You may be able to negotiate 375,000. Pull in your 203K loan and be able to renovate the home with no cost of your own and walk into a beautiful home that was renovated to your likings. And so please do not sleep on the possibilities that you have with a 203K loan, even with like the peeling paint that needs to be restored. That's okay. You can use a 203K for the peeling paint. You don't have to use the full 100,000. You can just use the 10,000, 15,000 to do the things that need to be done in as far as repairs are concerned to bring it um, to a place where you are comfortable with. So maybe you don't want to do the full amount of your pre-approval, and a lot of people don't. A lot of people don't want to be house poor. Just because you're pre-approved for 500,000 does not mean you have to use the full 500,000. Another question in regards to real estate. About the property and identifying potential issues. So basically, like a visual inspection, checking the wear and tear of all of the utilities. You also want to go into the basement, make sure that the foundation is cool. One of my favorite things during an inspection or in a showing is like, if you see a tree in the basement, that house is solid. And I mean it. Like, it's literally a tree stump without the branches, no bark, just sitting in the middle of the house, holding up the house. 9 times out of 10, that house is not being blown away. You and ITM will be perfectly fine, because the way that they structured homes back in the day, we are going to have to, can we reject this? Let's reject that. Okay, you guys can see me. Are we back? Are we back? We got a call. One of the way that homes were built years ago is not how homes are built today. So in a newer home, you may see metal post. You may see metal post in the middle of the basement. holding up the structure. Sometimes they have holes in them, so sometimes they have to be raised up a little bit, sometimes over the years, in order for it to level out, because homes do settle. Wood can, sort of like wood can get bloated, and then it can swell down, and then it swells up. And so houses settle after being built. And sometimes that settling causes unevenness, which is 100% natural in older homes that have since been restored, or since had a tree stump or a metal post in there in the basement to help with the foundation, or in newer homes, when you start hearing the creaking of the floors, that's all the house settling into the position after the influx and deflux of moisture, heat, etc. Researching the neighborhood, understanding the neighborhood. One of my favorite stories in this part, as far as the neighborhood is concerned, is I found the perfect home, Taylor. It's absolutely gorgeous. I don't know, for some reason, like, it's just been on the house. It's been on the market for like 100 and something days. Can we go see it? Before we go see it, let's go ahead and tap into our resources. Let's Google Streets this real quick. Coming to find out, there is a cemetery that is 2 blocks away, and you could almost walk to the cemetery. You can definitely see it outside of your window. Some people are turned off by that. Me personally, I'm like, watch over me, saints. I feel like my house is less likely to be broken into. Everybody has their preferences. Not some people don't care. They're like, what? A cemetery? Let's go. We're about to have the best Halloween ever. And other people are like, absolutely not. I don't want to live near the dead. And so it really just depends. Understanding the neighborhood, understanding the school system. I had a client, we found the most perfect home. It was everything that their family wanted. And then coming to find out, they did a little research on the school system, and the school system does not cater to their children's needs. Their children needed additional assistance with in the ways in which those children needed additional assistance, and unfortunately the school system did not offer it. So understanding the neighborhood that you want to move into, understanding the school system, understanding maybe there's a bunch of Biden Harris signs in the yards, and you're like, I want my Trump sign. I don't want to live around a whole bunch of people that are for Biden Harris. Like, I want to live around people that are going to have my Trump sign and not hate on me or be mad at me because I have a Trump sign in the yard. Like, all of that matters, and all of that's important, because these are the people that you're going to be living next to for the 30 plus years that you're going to be in this home. Unless it's an investment property, and then that's something different, and we can talk about that as well. An additional, of course, you always want to hire a professional inspector. Yes, I'm going to point out the electric. Yes, I'm going to point out the heating system. I'm going to point out the water treatment, if the house has one, or if the town's water is in complete disarray. Some people also care about whether or not the home has well water, or if it's connected to the town. I personally grew up on well water. It's some of the best tasting water ever. I feel like it's actually living water. It has the nutrients from the ground. It has the nutrients. Like, this is the water that our ancestors drink. I want well water. I'm not opposed to well water. Some people are like, no, I want the UV lighted water. I want the bleached water. I want the recycled water. I don't want, naturally recycled water that was once rain that fell into the ground and got filtered that way. Absolutely not. I don't want to drink that. So all of those things matter. And even though they're so small to some people that it's not really on their radar, it is something to consider. When you do get an inspection report, you want to review the inspection report. What are your pros? What are your cons? One of my favorite examples is when you go on a date. An inspection report is very much so like going on a date and that person sitting down is like, I have trauma with my parents. I have a couple relationships that I'm not over right now. I'm kind of selfish, self-centered. I snore in my sleep. I don't necessarily like brushing my teeth. Like putting everything, you're like, I'm gonna pass. Or it's like, listen, I was a daddy's girl my whole life. My daddy's not here. And now I'm looking for a new dad. It's just like, well, I guess I'll be a daddy. It's like, what are you willing to accept versus what you're not willing to accept? That's what an inspection report is. It's literally putting everything on the table and then you deciding whether or not it's going to be a green light, a yellow light, or a red light. That green light is like, you know what? This isn't that bad. Sounds like all I need to do is patch up, something on the roof. I need to switch out the outlets in the kitchen so that they're CGIs. Sounds like the basement is good. I could rip up the carpet and everything will be fine. Yellow light is like, ooh, I might need to bring a 203K specialist in here, do a little things, take out the lead paint. The roof needs to be done. I have some wiggle room in my pre-approval. And a red light is the foundation is gone to hell and it's going to cost $45 to repair it. I don't have that in my budget. I don't want to deal with it. Let's walk away. And so it's having that pre-approval, having that inspection report and going over the inspection report is really important. It also can be a bargaining tool where it's like, we just had our inspection. This is what came back on it. Is there anything here that you're willing to fix? And if not, are you willing to lower the purchase price so I can fix it myself? I'm just coming back here to see if there's any additional questions. How do I evaluate whether I'm ready for a long-term commitment to a property and a location, especially if I might face job relocations or lifestyle changes? And so this is like, you really need to have a conversation with yourself. Period. You really need to sit down and converse with self and say, how are we going to move forward? Assess your current and future needs and think about the lifestyle that you want to live. Are you trying to move to DC because you think you have a better opportunity out there? Then right now may not be the time for you to get a pre-approval in the state of Massachusetts, especially if you're not working with an agency or a brokerage that is not multi-licensed in multiple states. And I mean that as far as like a loan officer. Some loan officers are licensed in 48 states. Some loan officers are licensed in 7 states. Some loan officers are licensed in 1 state. Personally, I do not suggest my clients get a pre-approval with a bank unless that bank is providing a program or a product that only that bank has. I like for my clients to do their due diligence, to take a look at the numbers. What does the interest rate look like? What do all of the fees entail? Because some lenders have some amazing numbers on the front end. So I truly believe like the bold print giveth, but the small print take it away. And so take a look at the bold print. Is it everything glitz and glamour and everything that you need? Great. Now let's look at that small print and see if it takes it away. So a lot of the things that we see in life in general, the bold print giveth, but that small print take it away. And so you're thinking you're getting all of these benefits, and then you read the small print after going to the closing table, getting ready to sign, and realizing that, damn, I just put myself in a messed up position because I didn't have all of the information to make the best decision. Evaluate the job stability and mobility. If you're in the process of, getting a new job? Are you able to stay in the state that you're currently living in? Are you able to move around? Is it something where you'll be able to work remotely and go into the office once a week? If that's the case, it might be cheaper for you to live in Boston, or it might be cheaper for you to live in Worcester and for you to take a flight for $99 to DC one way. It's really like you really have to take a look at all of the components and factor those into making, again, the best decision for you and your family. Researching the area and investigating wherever you're considering buying, looking at local amenities, schools, community features. Is that somewhere you're going to be happy long term? Do they have all the things that you need? Let's say, for instance, you're from somewhere in the Caribbean, but yet in order for you to get your favorite seasoning, you have to travel, back to Boston, which is an hour and a half away. Are you okay with that? Are you okay with, I grab my seasonings once a month when I go to my favorite market, and then I come back home to peace, taking all of that into consideration, and also taking into consideration for the future. What does this look like? What if I get married? What if I have kids? What would be my next step after this? Taking all of that into consideration is important. It's great for you to want something now, but what about your 5 years into the future self, your 10 years into the future self? And that's why goal planning is so important. And so we are at 6:52, and I don't want to take up more of your time. If you have additional questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. You can always contact me directly, and I'll go ahead, and my website is up on the screen. I will give you my email address. Feel free to email me, and we can schedule some time to get on the calendar for me to answer your direct questions. So maybe these questions didn't get to the bottom of what you're looking for, or you're looking to sell and you have questions about what your number is. Maybe we didn't go over that and you want to talk to me privately. This isn't something that you want the whole community to know your business. That's perfectly fine. My email address is Taylor Andre at Thumbprint Realty. Hold on. Did it come up? There you are. And feel free to email me. We'll get some time on the calendar for us to discuss any and all of your needs. I thank you. I love you. I appreciate you for your time. And let's do this more often, whether it's once a month, whether it's once every 6 months, whether it's once a week. Just let me know what you need, and I will make sure that I tailor-made my content to be able to suit your needs. And again, it's all about informed decisions for me. You can't make the best decisions for you and your family if you don't have all the information. So let's get your questions answered. Let's, have you empowered and inspired and feel confident in decisions. And the best way to do that is to give you all of the tools that you need for you to go out into the world and be able to execute on your wants and desires. And so again, I thank you, love you, and appreciate you, and hope you have an amazing night. I look forward to closing with you. Let's get to that closing table, whether you're buying, selling, or you are a landlord looking for tenants. I'd love to help.